Everyone, I'm Brian. We're gonna go over a couple of things today. I'm gonna show you mainly some of the new goodies we got from Amazon. We're gonna show you how I got some things sorted out in here, and I'm gonna show you what my plan is, how to modify certain things that I already bought from Amazon, and how I'm gonna make them what I think is better, and how it's gonna fit, I think, better on the boat, and it's gonna give us better use. Here's a couple of latest arrivals, and I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with these. But first, let's take you into the area that I usually call my mad scientist lab. That's right in here. But we do have the stereo that showed up. I'll give you a quick look on that real quick. But let's walk into how I got things sorted out in here. So the boat is split up into several sections. We have what I call the boat accessories. So I have my fenders, I have the ropes, the anchor, everything's in that bin right back there. We have what I call the hard parts. So this is part of the center console, the step. We have everything that's a cover for one of the penetrations, brackets, everything that's that kind of stuff, nuts, bolts, screws, that kind of stuff is in there. And then this section right here, this whole bin, are all my electrics. So everything, whether it's a wiring harness, lights for the trailer that I'm going to replace, these are the gauges for the dash, see the wiring harness is in there. All that stuff goes in there so that I have everything separated when I start putting the boat back together, as we're doing now. So this is the stereo. Let's go ahead and take a look at this. So here's the stereo we bought for the boat. We got this on Amazon. It was like 70 bucks. The main reason I went for it is because it does claim to have 200 watts. We'll find out what that's all about. And comes with instructions and a wiring harness. It does say it's waterproof. We'll see about that. Comes with some decals. Okay, here's the bracket that holds it from the back. And here is the actual stereo. So as you can see, it's nice and rectangular, and it's going to fit. We're just going to have to open a little hole in the back of the existing fiberglass. So we'll match that, and this will seal up real nice. The main thing I was interested in is making sure that I had some RCA outputs, and I had, oh, this is something I didn't realize I had. We do have a USB drive right there. And then we have our wiring harness, which is going to take the right front, right left speakers output right there. So that's really what I really wanted. The other thing that's kind of a bonus is the fact that we get this, which is our template to cut out with. So we'll put this thing away. So that's what we're getting for the stereo. So nice, got a Bluetooth, 200 watts output, so it'll power 4 speakers very well. This is what I wanted to share about what I'm going to do with the dash controls. So when we got this dash, you can see this right here. It's got 8 switches, which is great, but I did have a problem with the fact that every switch is an on or off, which is not going to work for some of the things I want to do. Like, I want to add a horn right here on the main switch panel. I don't want to drill any extra holes. So guess what? We bought a switch on Amazon that will match these. Okay, so there's your horn switch. Now that horn switch is a temporary switch, so it'll just honk the horn and go back to, so you got your on, off, so it's always off, and it'll match these switches. So that's number 1 switch that I wanted to swap out with these guys. Number 2 switch is this guy, because we are adding a power pole. That power pole has to go up and down. So I wanted to add a switch that was also the same thing, temporary on for each position, so I can go up or down. So you can see how that switch just is only temporary on when I got it pushed in. So that's when I'm going to swap one of these guys for the power pole. Now let me show you a little bit about this panel. This particular panel, the reason I chose it is because it does have the 12 volt right there, and it does have a cigarette lighter, which I will never use, but I'm going to use that as another 12 volt. It does come with a USB and a USB-C, which is what I really wanted. Comes with a volt gauge on it, and then comes with the 8 switches. It is all on fuses, so we got 4 fuse circuits. Each one of these accessories powers 2 of these switches. So you got 4 accessories right here. So you got the 2 cigarette 12 volts, you got the USB and the voltage indicator, and each one of those has its own fuse. So we can fuse 2 of each one of these off of that. So I'm really stoked about how this is going to look, and that is what I'm going to go for on the dash. And now on to the fun stuff. We're going to make this ignition switch fit right here. We just took the faceplate so we can mark everything out. And then we're going to make this stereo fit right here. You can see where we've drawn our outline with our pattern that came with the box. And here we go. And we decided to use the saw here, the reciprocating saw, for some precision cuts. But we realized that the blade we had wasn't quite doing the job right, so we finished up this particular cut here on the key just so we could get everything finished up in one pass. We got lucky, did not have to remove the steering wheel or anything, and we make a quick fit of the entire ignition assembly right here, and voila, fits like a glove. But now we have to smooth things out, so out come the files. I use 3 different files. I use a flat file, I use a rat tail, and I use a half circle file. There is a reason for each particular file, and the flat obviously lets me smooth out most of the edges, and then I use each file for each particular use. And now to the bigger cut where the stereo is going to go. So for this I had a very different blade that was going to work on all this composite materials. There's a technique that we use to plunge the blade into a flat surface, which I do quite a bit. We're going to get this as a big hole, so we definitely have to cut this out and make sure we get it all set up right. So here you can see how we plunge the blade into the fiberglass and let the machine do the rest. Test fit this guy to make sure it works, and I'm noticing here that we have a couple little edges that aren't quite all the way, so we're going to remove this and trim it back out after I figure out exactly where it's hitting. Now for some cleanup with the files. Once again, Each file has a very particular purpose. The rat tail gets into and helps you make some of the corners a lot smoother. The flat edge for making everything smooth. And then we have the half circle for certain other sections. So all about making it smooth, making sure that no wires are catching, or your hand for that matter, when you're working on the fiberglass. Clean it up a little bit and let's do a final test fit. Perfect. And I think that looks pretty darn good. So that's our finished space for both the stereo and the ignition key. Now we're going to take a little bit of starboard. This is a piece I had left over just to get a measurement and see if we can make this work in this particular section. We're trying to give ourselves a better working area, so we're going to fill this section right in here with starboard so that we will now have a bigger flat area to put all our stuff on. We're going to cut our board for here right now. So nice thing about starboard is it cuts with regular woodworking tools. You don't need anything special for it, and just a regular circle saw is going to do the job. Now a little mistake that I did make here, you'll see it in a second, is I didn't set my blade deep enough to plunge into the starboard. Pulled up a little bit so I can get a very clean cut. So I had to, when I went to check it, I realized that, I'm going to try to cut it from the top side. I realized it is not deep enough, and I wasn't about to cut it with the saw again. So just set the depth again and ran it one more time so that we could have an easier pass at just cutting the last little bit with the utility knife. Clean off those edges and we'll give it a quick test fit here in a second. And there you go, that's what we want. So now it's going to give us a very nice working area to put all our accessories on. And we're going to do both sides on this center console because I have accessories on both sides. I am putting in pumps and horns and all kinds of stuff. So I need to make sure that I have lots of surface to work on. You got to remember, on little boats, space is at a premium. So anything you can do to give yourself more storage or space to work with and put your accessories is definitely better. Clean off those edges real good. And let's give her a quick test fit, see how it looks. There we go, that's exactly what we want. So both sides, all done, ready for accessories. And so we've already started putting some wires, pulling wires. We've tagged them and labeled them. Let's show you the underside of this, how it looks as we've developed our installation. You can see where we've installed the starboard, and we have our pump mounted there. We have our electronics mounted on the other side. We have our battery switch, our breaker. We have our fuse box right here where we'll be able to run all the grounds. Then our pump for the live well, that's already run. Everything's wired in, so I'm just gonna have to do final connections later. Horns installed. And then I installed all these little zip ties so that I can manage all my wires as I finish installing them. So I do have power wires and things that have to go through here, but there you go. That's what that's gonna look like. Let me show you real quick some of the other advances we've made here. We installed the oil tank for the 2-stroke oil. We got everything's wired in for the oil tank sending unit. We have our drain hose for the secondary bilge pump. Had to drill the holes, install that, and got all the wires across the bottom of this boat. And there's our fuel line, or our oil line, that's going to go through that hole to feed the motor. We got this exit spot for the steering cable and all the other stuff that goes through. So there you go.